Hi, this is Gary Rosenberg, the urban farmer in Berkeley, California. I thought I'd do a review of the Ecozoom stove that I've now had for about 2 months. Um, all in all, I'm very pleased with it. It's an interesting little machine. I just have learned a few things about it that I think might be helpful to anyone using it. So first of all, let me just say this is my workstation. It's a steel table that I pulled off the street. It's very useful. It's fireproof. That's a useful tool in this operation. First, the other tools that I've developed, I've put an axe station here, and I've put an ash can there, just a big can. I took a piece of a barbecue grill and I cut it, and that's sort of useful when I'm trying to use this thing to grill meats. It just goes on there like that. The heating area is kind of small, but it gives me the opportunity to move the meat from one place to another when it's not cooking. The other thing that I found is this is a stainless steel ring that came off an old colander. I don't know where you'd get anything like this, but it just works perfectly, it seems. It traps the heat, and when I put a pot underneath it, it seems to work really well to focus the heat of the stove. It works without it, but that seems to work well. The other thing that I found that seems to work pretty well is an old mortar, stone mortar. I broke the pestle and it fits just perfectly on top of there. And when I want to put out the fire and save the charcoal for later, I close it up and put the stone on there. The creosote from the wood seems to be gathering on there. I don't know what what's up with that. And an aluminum tray from a toaster oven that works. And I took an old shoe shine brush from my grandfather, and I use that to try to clean up occasionally. In terms of lighting it, there's a couple of things I've learned that I think are pretty important. This is on my back deck in Berkeley, and the prevailing winds come from the west, that direction. And I find that turning it northwest at about that angle is pretty important to getting it lit and keeping it lit. If it's turned away from the prevailing wind, it has real trouble getting lit and staying lit. The other thing that I found is important is really trying to keep the combustion chamber clean, especially this lower air passageway right there. If you don't clean that out before you use it each time, it doesn't seem to really want to work. No airflow comes in. As far as building a fire goes and getting something cooking as quickly as possible, I found the best thing to do is think about it both as a horizontal fire, and I put horizontal sticks in there, which ultimately you can feed in that direction. And I also think about building down and building a small fire, mostly with twigs and small kindling, coming from the top, sort of a teepee fire on top of there, and then putting some paper or something else to ignite it on the inside. I find that if I don't think of it both as a vertical and a horizontal fire, it doesn't seem to work as well. I'm using a lot of 2x4 scraps that I got from the lumber yard and from construction sites, which I've been splitting. That seems to be a pretty good size piece, and been putting them in there and feeding them in that fashion. That seems to work pretty well. When the pieces get a little bit bigger, when they get to be about an inch around, it doesn't seem to work as well. But there's lots of scrap lumber around, and all in all, I think it's a pretty good little unit. You do need to sort of tend the fire on a continuous basis, so that's just one thing to be aware of. But all in all, it's a pretty good little unit.